Hi guys, I'm with
Hi.
Jess and Claire today.
Hey.
Hi, Claire just woke up.
I did.
But this episode is almost like we're celebrating the last day of school, which was yesterday. It is a Thursday.
Yay.
Claps for all. How do you guys usually feel on the last day of school?
On the last day of school, teachers out there, please don't hate me for saying this, but I usually feel very happy and excited. But actually,
You are not alone. Not alone.
yeah, this last day of school, for like a combination of reasons that I guess we're gonna get into a little more later, I was actually kind of just like moodless in a way. I wasn't happy or sad. I didn't really know how to describe the feeling. I don't know, it was kind of weird.
I honestly, I don't know. I also didn't have too much of a feeling, and especially as a remote learner. Because you two, Jess and Claire, you guys are in school. So
Yes.
maybe you have more emotion. Because I'm just at home. I stay at home. I just don't log into Zooms, but I'm like always here.
For me, I guess my experience is a little different. Whenever it's the last day of school, I feel kind of sad, but then like kind of happy at the same time.
It's bittersweet.
Yeah, it's a little bittersweet because usually I like the feeling of being in school because I like having a schedule and like being able to do stuff. So I don't know. I don't like this year, especially. It was a little like, well, our summer break's really short this year. So I didn't really feel any like strong emotions because I know like a month later I'm going to go back to school anyways. So it was
A
like
month later, isn't it? Is it actually shorter?
I think it's like 2 months. It's significantly shorter. We're going back to school August 22nd.
Wow, you scared me when you said it was only a month long. I was about to like run into my closet and cry because I think everyone needs a break.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Like even if I could choose to have maybe longer weekends and not have a summer vacation, I would never choose that because
Really?
then it becomes this cycle that you never come out of. And summer vacation is like a break from all of it.
That is true. Yeah, that is true. What about your classes? Like, how was everyone at the last day of school for you guys?
Well, I didn't have like all the full classes. Some teachers just let us out. And it was almost sad because some classes we don't show cameras as remote learners, like no one does. And then we were just let out. So yeah, that contributes to my non-existent emotions. And then some it was just, like a bye. I don't know, pretty typical of a last day.
Oh, I feel bad for like at-home kids, online kids, because they don't have the same experience as like in-person kids, and I just feel like especially for like everyone moving up, like 10th graders moving to 11th grade, ninth graders moving sophomore year, it's just such a big change and it's just a little unreal for a lot of people. So I respect you online kids a lot.
Yeah, because I was online back when our school was hybrid. I was online sometimes, and it was definitely very hard for me to not be distracted because YouTube is just a click away. So I definitely also hold a lot of respect for people who learn remotely. And as for me, yesterday on our last day of school, I would say it was actually very boring because in a lot of my periods, it was just free. So there wasn't really anything to do. And also, yesterday, I think I ate an expired munchkin in the beginning of the day. So for me, it was actually quite miserable starting around my lunch period. I was
Oh,
in a lot of pain. So everyone was just like so happy and partying. And then I was in the corner just like,
oh. So
I don't
you had
know.
food poisoning in during the school day on the last day of school. It's
Damn,
very sad.
sucks.
You know what? That reminds me of in fifth grade, which is the last day of elementary. Last day of fifth grade is the last day of elementary school. So it's a relatively important day, right? It's like your very beginning of your childhood ending. And a couple days before that, I sprained my ankle. So I had
Oh
to miss
no.
the rest of the days and I didn't go to school that day. So just robbed. Every year robbed.
I mean, I feel really bad for the seniors. Wait, no. The seniors this year got a graduation, right?
Yeah, it was actually on Tuesday.
Yes, they got a graduation.
Hmm.
Oh my god, last year, I kid you not, I've never had a graduation experience in my entire life.
Oh,
Yeah, I skipped my 6th grade graduation and I skipped 8th grade graduation. So essentially, I never graduated.
but
Wow.
is there like a graduation for sixth, seventh?
Well, For me, it was more of like because my old school, I moved here in 6th grade. So my old school went from K to 6th grade. So then
Oh,
middle school started in 7th grade. Yeah. So I moved in 5th grade and then came to Jericho at 6th. So like I missed my graduation.
like so close. If only you're just 1 year short.
3 more years and then you'll get a real
3
graduation.
more years. I kid you not. I bet you in 3 years I will miss my graduation. Like
No.
so miraculous. Like
Do not. No.
So I know the summer is here. Do you guys have any exciting plans? And also something else I wanted to talk about was New York State, where we live, recently dropped all of the COVID regulations.
Oh
So
my God.
how do you guys feel about that?
Oh, all of the
Yes.
All of it.
There's nothing. Like there's no guidelines.
Yeah.
Like no mask, no social distancing. Nothing.
Mhm.
For my summer, I have more to say about the COVID part than the summer part. But for the summer part, I honestly don't know what I'm going to do. I think my family's planning to do something in July. I'm just not exactly sure what right now. For the COVID, oh my God, I have so much to say. Number one, New York State, I don't know what the hell is going through your mind. Why would you lift the COVID bans right now? It's the middle of summer. Everyone's gonna get together. I get that you're trying to like probably make everything go back to normal, especially for this year. You couldn't like implement some other like slight bans, like hey, still stay 6 feet apart. You know, restaurants don't have so many people because COVID, I believe, is still a problem. Whether or not the vaccine is being like distributed, I still think it's still very risky to all of a sudden push everyone to be together in like public gatherings. At least like it just doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, and then also people, influencers, whoever, can't really say what to do. Like now they
Exactly.
can't point to guidelines like this is the law, you have to wear a mask or you have to social distance. Like they're just saying, I mean, it's a suggestion, but New York is not requiring it, so you don't have to if you don't want to. But I think the rates of not reaction, vaccine, they're at like 60 something percent of adults are fully vaccinated and then 70 something or 80 are received the first dose. I don't know herd immunity. I think it's like 70%. So maybe it's close scientifically. I'm not too sure on that. But you know, the only way we will find out with these guidelines and the lack of it is just living through it. So we'll see, Claire.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually have to disagree with Claire a little bit, and I think the lift in the regulations is actually a very good thing because we've gotten to the point, like where Keira said, where we basically have herd immunity and the rate of COVID cases are very, very low. And I feel like we just can't go on forever with wearing masks and staying 6 feet apart, and we do need transition back into normalcy. There are states like Texas and Florida who dropped all of these requirements very early on, months ago. And I'm pretty sure from what I've read that their COVID rates were about the same as ours, even when we had all these regulations in place. So I'm not really sure also how effective regulations are in a way, because there's also this like psychological perspective that the more regulations you put on people forcibly, the more likely they are to feel a need to break these regulations and have these private gatherings with like upwards of 100 people together. But I definitely think it's a mixed issue. So like I said before, if you feel more comfortable wearing a mask and staying 6 feet apart, you should continue doing that. But I think people who want to not wear masks and want to, I guess, not social distance anymore should have that right, considering the low rate of COVID and the vaccination rate.
I think that even without regulations, there are enough people that think COVID is still a problem and are uncomfortable being in very tight gatherings or large gatherings. There are definitely people, like regardless of there being guidelines or not, they're going to be wearing masks, they're going to be social distancing. And I think there are enough people and enough vaccinations for it to not be incredibly chaotic with any COVID cases. And that is what I hope, at least. You know, you never actually know because with just like a spike, it can get really worse, like some countries around the world, right? Like we can't celebrate too early, but at the same time, like we're talking from probably privileged positions.
Yeah.
And some people are really negatively impacted with all of these guidelines, these shutdowns, not being able to go out. And, you know, I guess lifting up the regulations, it's fine. You know, I hope it's fine. It's what I'm hoping.
Right. Yeah, it was definitely very sad that when our regulations were extreme, there was a lot of a spike spike in alcoholism, a spike in drug uses, a spike in depression. It was definitely very hard for people
Yeah.
to live like that. So I think we definitely need to find a balance, because there definitely are a lot of people out there like Claire and lots of other people too who want regulations in place and feel like that's the best way to move forward. But there's also a lot of people who don't want regulations in place and feel like that's the best way to move forward. So I think we kind of need to find a compromise here, and maybe rather than dropping all regulations entirely, it could be like what we had before, where people who are fully vaccinated don't have to wear masks, but people who are not vaccinated still do. Something like that.
Yeah, I think people, like I was saying, there's enough people that would wear masks and do everything. Because I honestly I wouldn't feel comfortable sitting in a theater, a packed theater with no mask. I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. So I would wear a mask. So would my family. And I think other people would do that too. So just the lack of guidelines, it's not going to ruin everything that we've had so far. Like throughout the entire pandemic, a lot of people have fostered this attitude of, fighting the virus together with wearing masks and not touching everything. So I think that'll still remain. And maybe it's a good thing to get people acclimated to being with others and just back to normalcy, like Jess was saying, because for the next school year, we're probably all going to go back in person.
That is true. Yeah.
And I know it's going to be such a big change for me. I'm going to have to know where all the school buildings are. I'm going to have to be around people again.
What are your summer plans? We were talking about COVID, but we dropped the summer.
I don't have like any actual plans yet, actually. So I plan on hiking, but I pretty much did that last year. I want to get that physical activity going again because I have not been very active.
Same.
So,
I do
yeah.
exercise more. I'm just like, I swear I've gained like 5 pounds over the school.
I have actually gained, I think, 4 pounds since last year. I recently went for a checkup at the doctor's place, and I gained 4 pounds. So gonna get that physical activity, yes, that exercise. Gonna get fit over the summer. Although that might be a little hard if I eat too much. And other than that, my sister is going to college next year.
She got into Cornell, right?
Congrats to your sister.
Thank you. She was very happy when she received acceptance letter, and we're going to be driving to Ithaca and just dropping her off. Might stay there a couple days, but other than that, like no real vacation plans. Not sure yet. What about you guys?
I also don't really have too many things planned out, but I know after the regions, well, for those of you who don't live in New York State, I guess I should explain a little bit. The regions are basically a standardized test that all high school students need to take in certain classes pretty much to pass, but this year, because of COVID, they just made it optional or whatever. So yeah, I have a Regents exam on the 22nd, and then after that, my family's going to go to Texas for a week, and I'm really excited because I've never been to Texas before, so it's going to be a new experience.
Nice.
And then I'm going to be doing a program in Florida for 3 weeks, and then after that, my summer is just pretty unplanned, and I'm kind of down for that though, because I think we all kind of need a break from being on this school schedule, and just we need to chill. Everyone works so hard. We all need a break.
We do, yes.
It's okay to not have a schedule every day.
I can't relate. I like to have a schedule because then like it's easier for me and it's easier for my mind to process things. Oh yeah, sophomore year. I know me and Jess talked about this in like Zara's episode, but I was wondering about Keira's standpoint. Like, what do you think? Since we're moving to 10th grade next year as an online student, any like viewpoints?
Well, it'll be a big contrast, like I was saying. And I've really gotten used to just having a lot of my own time, right? Even if I'm in a class, technically I'm just alone in my room, isolated. So it'll be weird having an actual setting where people are around me in physical form with living cells. It'll be weird. And I think that it will actually be a heavier workload because there's going to be the introduction of AP courses and just in general, it's a grade up, more work, more challenges.
More stress next year.
Yes. Yay, so excited.
We're going to work on that stress. Gonna handle it, deal with it.
I also wanted to ask you guys your predictions for next year. In that, like in school, do you think there's still going to be a remote option? Do you think we're going to have to wear masks? Do you think people will need to be vaccinated to go to school? And also something interesting that I was thinking about is like, will it be allowed to wear a mask? Because pre-COVID in our school, I'm pretty sure it was against the rules to wear a mask. So I wonder if they're going to re-implement that rule.
Oh, masks, I think the rule, I'm not sure. But I know that a lot of teachers, they were hating the remote option. Like maybe some teachers are okay with it, but overall they're already going in person to have to teach to two different audiences. It's hard for them. So I don't think there will be a remote option, assuming that the cases, die down.
I agree, yeah. I think, especially since New York dropped all state regulations, I think our school will for sure be back to normal, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't think we'll have a lot of regulations. And I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question, Jess?
Oh yeah, I was just saying how like in regular times, it's actually against our school's rule to wear a mask. So do you think people will actually be allowed to wear masks?
I think maybe. I think that really depends on whether or not the school.
Yeah, I wonder if it'll be an option. But at the same time, like though in the same way that teachers were hating the remote option and having to teach remote students, they probably hated, kids wearing masks. Just obviously masks were very helpful during the pandemic, but if the cases are gonna die down, then maybe masks will be banned too. And I think maybe vaccinations will be required.
Yeah, vaccinations.
Yeah, like people have to have certain shots already to go to a public school. So I think this might be part of it, the COVID vaccine. Because I know when I went to the graduation a couple days ago, they asked for everyone to be vaccinated in order to even enter. And it was like outdoors, pretty distance actually. It was scattered seating. So I think that might be a requirement.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you brought up a point that I forgot to mention. I think for sure, maybe next year, I think there's a high chance that the vaccine might be required to go to school. And if not, there'll probably like be an option for you. But yeah, essentially that's it. What about you, Jess? What do you think?
I agree that I think the vaccine will probably be mandatory considering that it was made mandatory in a lot of colleges and they also have a lot of other mandatory vaccines. But also, I'm really not sure how that's going to blow over because I know that the vaccine is very controversial. So I think there might even be something like you have to wear a mask if you're unvaccinated, but you can still come, something like that. I definitely hope and think that there will be no masks for the most part, at least a mandatory requirement, because like Claire was saying, the state dropped all regulations. And I think from this point on, hopefully, it's looking like our cases are just going to keep going down and down. And hopefully people are going to become more and more comfortable not wearing masks and transitioning back into a sense of normalcy. Also, I do not think there will be a remote option because it was very, very hard for teachers. And definitely also it was very, very hard for students. But I think also our district is going to pretty much do what the parents, teachers, and students want. So they might send out some surveys and things like that because I know that's what they did this year. They really took a lot of community input. So I think it's pretty much up to our community to decide these things. And I think that it definitely should be a community decision. The school should not just decide these things on its own. They should definitely listen to our voices because we're the ones who are going to be going to school every day in the situation that it will be next year.
Yeah, and well, with the requirements though, it's difficult for the vaccinations and masks because then there's the debate about civil liberties but safety. Because if it's for safety and there's actually a danger involved in not getting vaccinated and not having everyone vaccinated, then it might very well be a requirement, like a hard requirement in order to enter the school building. Because now there are vaccinations, right? Like you have to. There is no question unless there's a medical reason that you can't get a vaccine. So that might be one of them.
Right. I just think there's been a lot of backlash to the vaccine in general because I know that some people have the belief that it's dangerous and it's also pretty new. So I'm just not sure if people would oppose that, in that some people really do not want their children to have this vaccine and then their children would have nowhere to go. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, there might be opposition.
I was gonna say, like, just you brought up a really important point because some parents who don't want their kids vaccinated and all of a sudden if vaccination becomes a requirement, aren't we technically denying these kids education? So like I was just thinking.
And it's not the child's fault or really their choice if their parents are the ones who don't want them to have the vaccine, I feel like. So they technically still should have the opportunity to have an education.
Right. Well, these are like the difficult choices that our country has to make. And
not us though. We're just gonna chill and wait for their decisions.
Yeah. A lot of hard decisions to make for a lot of people.
What Keira was saying, like the whole civil liberty thing, it's actually the Lincoln Douglas Nationals topic. I think the resolution is something like the government ought to, something about like civil liberties and public health crises, whether or not the government should have the ability to limit civil liberties in the case of a public health emergency. And I think that's just like an extremely loaded and crazy topic. I personally don't think I could say yes or no to that one, because part of me wants to say yes, but also part of me wants to say no on that one. I just don't think I could draw a clear conclusion. It's a very, very hard question.
Mhm. Good luck on that one. That question kind of sounds fun.
It's situational, I think, but
Mhm.
also it's hard to judge because I think judges will go in with a clear just attitude towards
Yeah.
masks are the most relevant, or vaccinations during the COVID-19 pandemic, right? If people are very adamant on like not wearing masks or wearing masks, so if a judge goes in and they say that everyone should wear masks because of given, the circumstances of the virus, then what is it? Well, I don't know the exact resolution, but one side of that is obviously for that. So it's hard.
But I also think there's a difference between believing that like everyone should wear a mask versus the government should force everyone to wear a mask.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think that's the core of the debate. Really, just should the government enforce it in its laws and be able to punish you for it?
Right.
Or should they just be providing the information and then you make your own decision to wear a mask or not to wear a mask? Like who is it up to?
And then another layer of complexity in that whole public health emergency, like a lot of these restrictions that governments impose upon people are to protect others. So I think that, yeah, there's just really both sides have very good arguments, because I believe that once a civil liberty is taken away, there's always the risk that people will acclimate to that and that civil liberty will never be given back. And some also, I feel like it goes against some of the principles that were established in the Constitution and whatever. But I also think that sometimes civil liberties being restricted, such as like wearing a mask, are in order to protect other people. So I feel like it could be justified in that sense.
Yeah, we just have to be very careful as citizens to determine how much the government can go, or like how far they can go.
Right.
Yeah, because like you were saying, once a civil liberty is trampled over, or once they extend past their reach that was, almost decided, then there's no limit. It's hard.
All right. Is that a wrap?
Yeah, that was pretty interesting actually. We went from the last day of school to summer plans to state regulations to philosophy. I think we had a really great conversation today.
Yeah, and we'll see. So last day of school, but not the last day of the pandemic or of any of these difficult decisions that we're gonna have to make and carry into the next school year.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Happy summer.
Happy summer.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.